The road to Shyamcharan village had long been forgotten by most maps. Hidden deep inside the thick forests of eastern Bengal, where the air smelled of damp earth and secrets, and the wind carried whispers no one wanted to hear. The village was quiet, eerily quiet, even in daylight, and people said the sun hesitated to touch its soil after dusk. When Arjun, a 28-year-old architect from Kolkata, received a letter saying he had inherited his great-grandfather's old house there, he felt a strange pull inside him, half curiosity, half dread. His mother had always warned him, "Never go to that village, Arjun. That house is cursed." But curiosity has a way of defeating fear. After hours of traveling through broken roads and fading sunlight, Arjun reached Shyamcharan House, a massive, decaying mansion standing alone on a hill, surrounded by trees that looked more like blackened skeletons than wood. The gate creaked open with a sound that echoed like a groan, and as he stepped inside, dust rose from the ground as if the house had just exhaled after a long sleep. The air was thick, heavy, and filled with the faint scent of something rotting. Inside, the wooden floor groaned under his steps. Portraits of grim-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes following him as he moved. A large grandfather clock stood in one corner, ticking faintly, even though its pendulum was still. As he turned toward the hallway, he froze. There, sitting in the corner of the dimly lit room, was an old woman with long silver hair covering her face. Her skin was pale, almost gray, and her breathing shallow. Arjun's voice trembled. "Who are you?" The woman slowly raised her head, her milky eyes staring straight at him. "I've been waiting," she whispered, her voice dry as dead leaves. "You came back. Just like your father." Arjun's heart stopped. "You knew my father?" he asked, stepping closer. The woman smiled faintly, showing yellow teeth. "He promised to free them, but he couldn't. Now they're awake again." Before Arjun could say anything else, the room flickered like a candle about to die. And when he blinked, she was gone. Only her chair remained, gently rocking. That night, Arjun decided to stay in the upstairs bedroom. The bed was old, the sheets cold, and the walls seemed to breathe. As the clock struck midnight, he heard faint footsteps in the corridor. "Hello?" he called softly, but there was no answer. The wind outside was still, yet the window rattled violently. Then a whisper came from right beside his ear. "You shouldn't have come." His flashlight flickered, his heart pounded. Muddy footprints appeared on the floor, starting at the door and leading straight to his bed. He followed them slowly, his hand shaking. The prints stopped right at the edge of the bed and vanished. But then the bedsheet began to sink, as if someone invisible had just lain down on it. Arjun stumbled back, gasping. He ran downstairs, but the front door wouldn't open, and every window was nailed shut. Then he noticed the portraits again. The painted eyes were bleeding, thick red liquid dripping slowly down the canvas like tears. Arjun's breath caught in his throat. He turned and saw something move past the hallway mirror. A shape, a face, something that shouldn't exist. Then he heard humming. A woman's voice, soft and sad, drifting in from the backyard. He followed the sound outside. The air was colder than before, and the moonlight made everything look pale and lifeless. The voice led him to the old well behind the house, covered in moss and vines. Arjun leaned over the edge, his flashlight trembling in his hand, and froze. In the black water below, a face stared back at him. A pale, smiling face. His father's face. Arjun gasped, stumbling backward, but the reflection moved closer. A wet hand rose from the water, reaching out toward him. He fell, his flashlight crashing onto the ground, its beam spinning wildly across the trees. Then, from the darkness, that same voice whispered again, closer now, almost inside his ear. He tried to set us free. Now, it's your turn. The air grew icy. The trees groaned as if alive. And deep inside the house, the old grandfather clock started ticking again, louder than before. Tick, tock, tick, tock, like a countdown to something terrible waiting to happen. Arjun sat on the cold floor, shivering, his heart pounding like thunder. The sound of the old clock echoed through the dark hall, every tick dragging the night deeper into madness. The air felt heavier now, thick with whispers. From somewhere inside the walls, he could hear voices, faint, broken, like people calling from underwater. He grabbed his flashlight and looked toward the staircase. The beam shook in his trembling hand, cutting through the dust and shadow. For a moment, he thought he saw movement upstairs, something gliding silently across the landing, white and shapeless. He forced himself to move, his feet heavy as if the house itself was pulling him back. When he reached the library door, he noticed strange markings on the wood. Circles, symbols, and lines drawn in what looked like dried blood. Inside, books lay scattered on the floor, pages torn and blackened. On the table sat an old diary, its leather cover cracked with age. The name carved on it made his stomach twist. Hari Narayan Shyamcharan, 1892. His great-grandfather. He opened it carefully. The pages smelled of dust and decay, but the writing was still legible. Shaky words filled with fear. "The house is not mine," one line read. "It belongs to them now. The well is their gate, and she is their keeper. I tried to seal it, but she will not rest." As Arjun read further, the pages grew darker. Talk of rituals, sacrifices, and a girl named Meera, a servant who was accused of witchcraft a century ago. The villagers had thrown her into the well, believing she cursed the family. But before dying, she screamed out a prophecy. "Every firstborn of this blood will return to me. I will rise through their blood." Arjun dropped the diary. His breath came fast. Suddenly, he heard footsteps, slow, dragging, coming closer. The library door creaked open. Standing there was the same old woman he'd seen before. But this time, her eyes were gone, just two dark holes bleeding down her face. "You read it," she hissed. "Now she knows you." The windows burst open, the candle flames twisting into black smoke. The floorboards shuddered as if something was moving beneath them. Arjun stumbled backward, clutching the diary. "What do you want from me?" he shouted. The woman's lips twisted into a grin. "Not me," she croaked. "Her." From behind him came a sound. Wet footsteps, like something crawling out of water. Arjun turned slowly, and there she was, Meera. Her hair was dripping, her white dress soaked and torn, her skin bloated and pale. Water dripped from her fingertips, leaving black stains on the floor. Her mouth opened slowly, unnaturally wide, revealing a darkness deeper than death itself. "You came back," she whispered, her voice like gurgling water. "You carry his blood." Arjun tried to run, but the door slammed shut. The windows sealed themselves, and the lights went out. He screamed as hands, cold, wet, invisible, grabbed his ankles, dragging him toward the floor. He kicked and clawed, shouting her name. But the house was alive now, the walls pulsing like veins, the portrait screaming silently. He fell hard, hitting his head. For a moment, everything went black. When he opened his eyes, he was outside, lying beside the well. The air was silent. The dawn was breaking. It felt like everything had been a nightmare. Until he saw the water. It was no longer black, it was red. And floating on its surface was the diary, open to the last page. A new line had been written in fresh ink, though no one else was there. "The curse is not broken.
It is born again. Arjun stumbled back, his chest heaving. He looked down at his arm and froze. A faint handprint, wet and red, was pressed into his skin. He rubbed it, but it wouldn't fade. From the distance, the wind carried a voice, faint but clear, the same whisper that had haunted him all night. You tried to set us free, and now you belong to us. The forest fell silent again, but deep inside the well, something moved. A ripple spread across the surface, as if something beneath had started breathing again. The curse had awakened, and this time it would not sleep.